Welcome. I'm Tania Lieberman, Commercial Director of Beat for LATAM. Today, LATAM and Asia come together to discuss a fast-growing industry that's leaving a deep mark on both the planet and profit margins. It is fast fashion. For those that don't speak English, we will have subtitles all along the webinar. Let's start sharing some global facts about this industry. In regards to market growth, Fortune Business Insights tells us the global fast fashion market is growing 10% annually, worth 148,000 millions in 2024 and projected to reach 318,000 million by 2032. In regards to overproduction and waste, Fair Clothes tells us overproduction is now systemic and hurts both the environment and the profitability. Some brands launch over 20,000 designs per year, which means 55 designs per day. Brands are chasing relevance in shorter cycles, but margins and the planet pay the price. People wear clothes 36% less often than 15 years ago. By 2030, global clothing consumption will rise 63%, reaching 102 million tons. This creates a paradox. More sales does not equal more profit. The push to produce cheap and fast leads to more discounts, overstock, and operational strain. So selling more doesn't mean being more profitable. The new rule, profitability no longer comes from scaling, but from scaling smart. Produce better, react faster, and match the inventory with real demand. Today, I have the pleasure to share this webinar with two amazing experts. We have Roy Raz, who is the Director of Asia for Onebeat, and Ariel Bacal, the Director of Strategic Partnerships for the company. Today's key questions will be, how do we grow without sacrificing margins and sustainability? How do we stay agile without overproducing? And most importantly, how do we turn fast fashion into smart fashion? Please note that all along the webinar, we will have a QR code that you can scan to reach us and ask more questions. And we will be glad to contact you. So, Roy, we're going to start with you. Can you please answer this question? How do we explain the global rise of fast fashion?
Hi, Tanya. Basically, if you take the intuition of a shopper, okay, a conventional shopper, it's easy to understand that when we see big assortments at affordable prices, it calls for the mass market. That's very easy and straightforward. However, if we look at the last 2 decades, we can identify much deeper psychological effects that impacts the consumer behavior over time. And we can see 3 main changes in consumption behavior, which are very consistent. Their pattern is very consistent in the last 2 decades. The first change, the first trend in consumption behavior is the need for consumers' need for personalization. Consumers are more aware, shoppers are more aware about their specific needs, and they want the product that meets their specific needs. Now, given that retailers want to be customer-centric and they want to adapt to market demand, they are also aware about the need of the consumers, and they are offering more choices to the consumers. So eventually what we see with time inflation of the number of choices, inflation of assortment. Just to give you a few examples from the market in India, one of the biggest economies in Asia Pacific. So when H&M entered India a decade ago, 2015, it offered between 1,500 to 2,000 styles in a season. By today, it's more than 4,000 styles in a season across 50 collections. Almost every week there is a drop of new collection. So this is already more than double given the same stores, okay, with the similar store size. It means that it amplifies the assortment. And there are more and more examples like the If you take the e-commerce giant Mintra, which is dealing with fashion, it offers more than 6,000 brands of fashion, fashion and lifestyle brands on its website. So with time, what we see a trend of more assortment. The second consumption behavior or consumer behavior that is showing a change in the trend over time is the instant need for immediate the need for instant gratification. So what consumers want, they also want it now. The tolerance time is shrinking, the tolerance time of the consumer. And as a result, again, because the retailers know about this trend, they want to offer better availability to the consumer and to crush down lead time so that they'll be able to serve the customer faster. And today we see trends. If we were used to trends of delivery over weeks and then delivery over days, today we are talking about delivery over minutes. So if you take in India, if you take a trend of quick commerce, it's a trend that offers limited assortment, not all assortment, but it offers assortments that can be available for the consumer within 30 minutes, okay, even less sometimes. So with this, consumers are being educated about their needs for having even shorter lead times, and that's pushing the entire industry for better availability and shorter lead times. And of course, retailers need to increase their reach to get closer to the consumer. The third and last behavior is consumers' constant need for freshness. So freshness drives excitement. With more freshness, there is a bigger chance that the consumer will find excitement in the store and will buy. And as a result, retailers need to offer more new products. More new products means that the existing product needs to go on shorter life cycles. So they need to basically have higher rotation of their inventory. So if we were used to, again, 2 decades ago, a typical fashion brand would do 2 to 4 collections in a year with a life cycle of 3 to 6 months for products. Today we're talking about, as we said, 50 collections with the life cycle per product of 2 to 4 weeks, okay, or 2 to 4 or 4 to 6 weeks, which is very, very considerably shorter. So altogether, if I summarize all these, what we are getting is we're getting very high pressure on retailers to offer big assortments on very, very high freshness with very, very high inventory, eventually as close as possible to the consumer, which is reminding us of the fast fashion industry as we know it today.
Thank you, Roy. Ariel, this one goes for you. These dynamics are certainly fueling the fast fashion industry globally, but does it pay off?
So that's indeed a great question. So it will depend. As always, the answer. I'm an economist, so as an economist, I will answer. It depends. If the retailer fast fashion has 2 components. One is a merchandising component, which is, and as Roy was saying, we stop talking about collection and we start to talk about drops and capsules. So that by itself is a huge complexity, because you end up with what Roy was telling us, that H&M used to have 1,500 SKUs and they are now have 4,000 SKUs. So the complexity is huge just on designing the drops and to go to market with the drops. But at its core, fast fashion, it's a supply chain model. So what we see on our end is clients or retailers that wants to go into fast fashion, that they don't take into account the complexity of the supply chain part of it, and they fall into a vicious circle or rabbit hole of more drops, more inventory, less cash, and more markdowns. So it's bad for them, for their cash flow, for the environment, and for the client. Because also the client is so smart that that they know that this new drop will be 20% off in 2 weeks. So they don't buy it at full price. So the vicious cycle is terrible. It's a nightmare. But we see clients on the other side that they totally understand that this has to come with a huge supply chain framework, or I will call it philosophy change. I mean, you have to change the way that you think supply chain. So if fast fashion in the supply side is about fast, it's about lead times, but it's about balancing. You have to balance inventory all the time. It's the balancing of inventory between store is not just a nice to have in the old pre-fast fashion world. The balancing of inventory between stores is a must-have. And if you don't have it, the fast fashion adventure can turn into a nightmare. If you have it, it can turn into a virtual cycle of more sales, more excitement, more sales, better brand positioning, and above all, better cash flow. And what we see also is when some clients telling us, hey, no, we are now 70% basic, 30% fast fashion, because we tried fast fashion before, it didn't work. It didn't work not because fast fashion is a bad model. You see people really doing a great business out of it. It's because they didn't took into account the immense complexity on the supply chain, and they didn't change the philosophy around supply chain that fast fashion takes to you, and you have to apply.
Absolutely. Thank you. We know that forecasts are not accurate. I remember a famous quote by Dr. Goldratt saying that if forecasts happen to be accurate to the second decimal point, it means that someone probably cooked the numbers. What should a typical brand do then? By how much can they improve their forecast, if at all? Roy, this one's for you.
Yeah, it's a good one. So, Tanya, yes, forecasts are indeed inaccurate. I think that's something that it's not only our intuition and experience. We work with many clients in Asia, and they all confirm that their ability to influence the forecast accuracy is very, very limited. There is a big trend with AI and advanced technology with attempt to improve forecast accuracy. And what we see is that the improvement is very, very marginal. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to point out what was the improvement with respect to this tool, if at all. And there is a reason to it. But it also comes with great news. And the great news is that there is, however, a way to apply advanced technology, but not on the planning side. It's more on the day-to-day executions, on day-to-day decisions. Okay, Ariel mentioned earlier that fast fashion originally, everyone wants to be Zara, but the Zara model predominantly is a supply chain model with the ability to go very, very quickly to convert from design to garment and put it in the store and sell it out very fast and do that cycle again and again. So with that fast feedback loop, the retailers can handle much better the high rotation of inventory without giving away a lot of markdowns, a lot of margins. But the situation that we are dealing with most brands, most conventional brands that want to take a bite of this growth, this hype of fast fashion, when they don't have this supply chain capability, is that eventually it considerably consumes the margin. It puts a big question mark about viability of the business as a whole. Now, if we do apply advanced technology properly and in the right place, we can push those conventional players that do not have a Zara-like supply chain model into having a Zara-like sell-through figures eventually. And in order to explain what it means, I'll try to illustrate it through an example. So if you take a fast fashion store, a typical fast fashion store that receives, say, weekly drops of new collections every week. And those collections, some of them are selling very well. We call them the fast movers, and then they sell out very fast, faster than expected. This is why they are fast movers. There might be a little inventory for replenishment in the warehouse, but it's very little. Most of it is in the store, and they run out of stock very fast. At the same time, those collections have slow movers. And as we know, most of the collection, the majority of the collection is what we call slow movers. And the slow movers sell slower than what we expect, and they gradually accumulate on shelf space. So if we look at the shelf space over the season, what we expect to see is we see more accumulation of slow movers or slow moving products on the shelf and less representation of the fast movers, those that really drive the conversion in the stock. And this phenomena reach a tipping point just before the end of season sale. And our statistics shows, okay, and this is numbers, benchmark numbers that we have from Asia, that just before end of season sale, what we see on average is that 60% of the merchandise in the store is responsible only for 5% of the sale of the store in the season. Okay, and this is our definition, global definition for tail. We usually go by this definition. You must agree with me that the bottom 5% of the sale is very, very marginal, almost none. So this is basically negligible part of the sale, and this is 60% of the merchandise. And luckily, we have the end of season sale. That's a period of high traffic. All consumer knows that this is the time to come and shop. So that's an opportunity to liquidate most of this inventory with high discount and start afresh with new collections, new seasons, and so on and so forth. Now, what we have seen when we have done a high resolution analysis is that those 60% slow movers are not bad products. In fact, majority of those 60% slow movers that occupy the shelf are products that at the same time, while they are slow movers in this store, they ran out of stock in other stores, selling very well. And most of the time, most of the season time, they were unavailable and that's at the other store to generate additional sales. So in a way, we ran into a catch. It's a lose-lose. Okay, we lose on one hand on the store that is stuck with that stock that needs to compromise its freshness across the season at full price, the time that it can sell at full price, and eventually sell this product on liquidation, on discount, and give away margin at the end of season, while other store lost a sale opportunity for the entire season on that product. And the interesting thing, Dania, is when we calculate this and we look at the real capacity that stores had to sell this tail, this so-called tail, these 60% slow movers, we see that the majority of it could be sold at full price in the season between stores. So most of the stores had the capacity to sell it to the extent of 85% of that, what we call tail. We call it a local tail, the store tail. With that understanding, we understood that we need to innovate and put those innovation on the execution and not on the planning side, because the opportunity is huge here. We're talking about the 60%. And when we applied this technology, advanced technology, on aspects of initial allocation and replenishment and store transfers, which play a major role in fast fashion, we can see up to 20% increase in the sale in the season. That's about 20% increase in full price sell-through in the season. Now, the big emphasis is obviously on store transfers in fast fashion, simply because things are very, very fast. The life cycle is very, very short, and in order to respond, we need to respond in the season and respond fast.
Thank you. Ariel, you were mentioning about the importance of store balancing. And now I want to ask you, why do you think that retailers are not relying more on store transfers to get there?
So basically, the keyword is complexity, because just imagine the complexity around store transfer. So let's say that you have a 50-store retail chain, and then you will have to decide each day for each SKU per color, per size. I mean, the more granular SKU, you need to calculate 49 combination, because you have 50 stores, you have one store that is a donor, and 49 possible receivers. Then you have to do it with all the SKUs. On top of that, you will have to optimize the trip. It's not only the combination, The only the where should I say, where should I put this SKU, but which trip is the best for me? Trip optimization. On top of that, you have to optimize the size curve because you have sizes. And let's be honest, we used to think that the same product has on average, the same size curve in each store. It's not the case. We know it's not the case. So basically, this is so complex, and so that with the current technology, which pre-AI and machine learning technology, it was impossible to do. But it's also there is another catch to it. People are not calculating the opportunity cost, meaning, yes, it's costly and it's complex to move things around because I really don't know where to move it. And when I know where to move it with the old technology, let's say, it's too late to move it. But when I calculate the opportunity cost of selling, as Roy was saying, 20% more at full price, the opportunity cost is huge. So you have on the one hand the opportunity cost of not moving, but on the other hand the complexity of moving, of balancing. So that's why the retailers were they were like frozen between these two scenarios. We knew that we are losing money, but in order to not lose money, we have to put more money and more complex. And you basically don't know if the decision that you were made were good because it's very complex. So with machine learning and AI, the complexity gets reduced by a lot. Why? And I like what Roy was saying. It's not applying technology. It's applying technology on the right problem, on the right part of the problem. Because if you apply AI to forecasting, I mean, you can apply AI to card reading and to tarot and to the horoscope. You can do it. It won't change much. But applying AI specifically on execution that you can control, and you can, and what I'm referring with AI, machine learning models in which you can analyze all the SKUs in all locations, compare it with also the specific size run that you need in this location, and also optimizing the trips, doing it on the every night, so you have the decision in the morning, the correct decision. It's a huge advantage. And if you don't have this technology where you go to the fast fashion world, in the fast fashion business model, you will definitely fail. So up to now, in-store transfer were extremely complex and extremely costly, but on the one hand, but extremely necessary on the other. With machine learning, applying exactly where we need to be applied, which is in execution, you can have 20% more, at least 20% more sales on with full margin by balancing the inventory between your store in a way that based on the market signals, not on a rule that you think that it worked 20 years ago in your business, based on real market signals.
Wow. With good optimization, the numbers can rise very, very quickly. I would like for both of you to please share with us some store transfer results of, in your markets. Roy, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, with pleasure. So let me brief you first about the before and after. Okay, so we've we've tested the store transfers on multiple brands in India specifically as a market. And we've done it across different segments, anywhere from footwear to women's wear and then fast fashion and different segments. Most of the brands that we worked with used to do store transfers, if at all, once in a season. And it used to be probably before the end of season sale, mostly in order to rebalance the inventory between stores before the peak part of the season of the high traffic time. But it was mostly in order to ensure that they liquidate well, and anyway, the things that they moved went on discount in order to sell. We try to reverse this logic, and we try to create a habit that retailers do at least monthly store transfer cycles in the season itself. That means we would identify the proper candidate for store transfers based on different consideration, life cycle, their service level, to what extent they are broken in stores, and so on. And the kind of algorithm that we followed on this monthly cycle is that we optimize the trips. Like Ariel mentioned, it was an optimization engine that only identified the high cost-effective transfer, consolidated those transfers into trips, and chose only the most cost-effective trip. That means, okay, and it's very important to mention, we did not do a full optimization every month and moved all the possible sizes between stores. We only focused on the low-hanging fruits. We wanted to give our retailers the feeling that it's a reasonable bite that they can take. It's a chunkable, something that they can handle, viable, so that it's not a big change management. Okay, that's the background. What we've seen in terms of some numbers. So the first thing that we've seen is that the sell-through rate of products that we moved between stores was considerably higher than the sell-through of fast movers. And what we transferred were slow movers. I will explain. In footwear, for example, which is a slower environment in nature, we saw 43% sell-through in 30 days. That means that the product that we moved from store A to store B, 43% of them were already sold in the first month. In fast fashion, which is a much, much faster in nature, we saw 56% sell-through rate, which is very, very high. Okay. Now, if we analyze those products that we transferred between stores, 80% of them are products with no sale at all. So if you take products with no sale at all, you move them to other stores, and suddenly they sell at a sell-through of 56% in 1 month, it's a big, big success for them. And because of that, what they saw is 6%. If I look only on the fast fashion segment, they saw 6% additional sales in value for the stores only by this monthly behavior, taking those small bites of store transfers on an ongoing basis. That means that it helps them considerably balance their inventory during the season and improve that flow.
Thank you. Ariel.
So in LATAM, we have also several great examples of in-store transfer. And the beauty of it is that we have it in different markets. So let's take a relatively small, because it's not a small at all market as Uruguay. In Uruguay, we have a very interesting case in which the same as Roy, they used to do in-store transfer very, I mean, they used to do it once a season at least. I mean, but it wasn't actually a rule. That's just sporadically, and they used to do it using Excel and this kind of tools. Then they start to apply our in-store transfer capabilities, and they saw a 500% ROI. I want to focus also on ROI, meaning what they invested in the tool and in the way in the in-store transfer compared with what they got in margin. So they got $100,000 in new margin, and if you compare it with the investment, it's 500%. So my question is for the retailers, they cannot answer, but they can answer later. What investment in retail generates 500% now ROI in month, only years in month? It's impossible. We try also with lingerie. So this is a women's wear. We have a lingerie brand in Colombia, 300% ROI. Also, they moved from a sporadically in-store transfer into a more AI-based machine learning store transfer, as Roy said, balancing and optimizing the trips. and also according to their business rules. So a country as complex as Colombia, we also limit we cluster the stores according to rules that we build with the client, with the retailer. So we don't send one SKU from Cali, which is in the south, to Barranquilla. So we cluster the store, we put business rules that make sense, and also we cluster, we calculate, which is very interesting, the P&L of each trip. I mean, the optimal, sales in excess that each trip will generate. So we have also, as I was telling you, a lingerie company in Colombia, 300% ROI, footwear company also in Colombia, 250% ROI. So those are very, very good numbers. And it also not only the numbers per se, but also the way that it opens to you to a new business model of, okay, now that you have that, you can do the drops, you can do the capsules, you can do other things on top of that, but don't do it without this, because this is actually the basis of everything that you need to do in order to get to fast fashion.
Amazing. Thank you to you both for sharing your knowledge, your insights on such, an important industry. To everyone attending this webinar, thank you for your interest in this topic. We look forward to connecting with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya.
Bye.
Your insights.